Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
54 Delta 2 on key rise if you want. Point Bravo 40 rise, take them out.
Stay in pursuit. Defense don't get the lead.
Alright, we're getting on the bridge now. Stand by for Easter West. Exiting set. Stand by, keep in mind, we're going eastbound. Eastbound, 1593.
Eagle, we're overhead. Southbound South A Street.
Tower southbound, dead ends shortly. Support. Looks like you might be going out. Stand by.
Watch your crossfire, guys.
Location.
Be South A Street and Elm Street.
A Street, Elm Street. You know what I'm saying?
South A Street and Elm Street. 23-1. Vehicle stopped. One detained so far.
Camera 1, camera 1. Point the Eagle, just be advised, our radios are down, please give updates. That's 19. Oh, custody. Camera 1, custody, 219.
Boynton cops cleared in beating of unarmed man laud convicted officer. Local by Jane Musgrave and Alexandra Seltzer, Palm Beach Post staff writer. West Palm Beach. After roughly 15 hours of deliberation over 2 days, a federal jury on Thursday convicted a veteran Boynton Beach police officer and acquitted 2 former officers of charges in connection with the August 2014 beating of an unarmed Lake Worth man, a beating that was captured on videotape from a Palm Beach County Sheriff's helicopter that hovered overhead. While former officers Justin Harris and Ronald Ryan were clearly relieved by the verdict, there was little joy in the courtroom as it sunk in that Officer Michael Brown had been convicted of 2 charges: deprivation of rights under color of law and use of a firearm during a crime of violence, and faces a lengthy prison sentence. The 2 former officers and roughly 2 dozen friends, family, and fellow cops remained in the courtroom for nearly an hour after the verdict was announced as U.S. District Judge Robin Rosenberg researched the law to determine whether Brown, 48, should be immediately jailed or allowed to remain free on bond until he is sentenced. Ultimately, Rosenberg ruled that Brown, who lost his wife last year, is raising a 9-year-old son who is still devastated by his mother's unexpected death and also cares for his ailing 72-year-old mother, could be sent home. While Brown remained stoic, his college-age daughter looked on, weeping. His 22-year-old son is on active duty in the U.S. Navy and not expected home until late December. Attorney Bruce Reinhardt, who represents Brown, convinced Rosenberg that Boynton's Officer of the Year in 2013 isn't a flight risk and is not a danger to the community. Even the evidence in this case demonstrates 1 minute and 40 seconds of behavior in an otherwise upstanding career, he argued, referring to the beating of Jeffrey Braswell. While jurors acquitted Brown of 2 of the more serious charges of falsifying records, he faces a maximum 15 years in prison. Brown and Reinhardt declined comment as they left the courthouse, but the attorney indicated the verdict would be appealed. Ryan, who was declared unfit for duty and fired last year after writing inflammatory emails questioning his supervisor's competence, wiped tears from his eyes as he hugged his wife and supporters. Outside the courthouse, he voiced support for Brown. "Mike Brown is one of the best police officers I've ever worked for," he said. "He's got a heart of gold. He's served his community honorably." As for himself, Ryan said, "I just want to put it all behind me and go home and get on with my life, that's all." Attorney Jonathan Wasserman, who represents Harris, voiced similar sentiments on behalf of his client, who left the police department about 2 years ago to open a gym. But, Wasserman added, any relief Harris felt was undoubtedly tempered by Brown's conviction. "I can imagine its sorrow for one of his brother police officers," Wasserman said when asked to characterize Harris's reaction to the verdict. Harris wasn't available for comment. The 12 jurors declined comment as they left the courtroom at about 6:30 p.m. Much of the testimony during the week-long trial concerned Brown's actions. As a canine officer, Brown drove the lead car in a roughly 20-mile chase on Interstate 95 that began when a car driven by Brian Harris clipped Officer Jeffrey Williams, who was throwing down stock sticks to stop the car from getting on the highway. Brown was also the first officer to reach the fleeing car that was finally stopped on South A Street in Lake Worth. While the video shot from the PBSO helicopter captured some of the other officers as they dragged driver Harris and passengers Braswell and Ashley Hill out of the car and kicked and punched them, only the 3 involved with Braswell's arrest were charged by federal prosecutors. Longtime Boynton Beach Police Training Officer Sergeant Cedric Aiken and Officer Patrick Monteith, who was among the 9 officers who pursued Harris's car from Gateway Boulevard in Boynton to Okeechobee Boulevard in West Palm Beach and then to Lake Worth, testified that Brown violated departmental policy by ramming the fleeing car to bring it to a stop. Further, both testified, instead of running toward the car, he and the other officers should have stayed by their vehicles and ordered the occupants to get out of the car with their hands up. By approaching the car with his gun drawn, Brown put himself and other officers at risk, Aiken testified. It created a crossfire situation between himself and his fellow officers, he told jurors. If the suspects fire and the cops return fire, there's a risk officers will shoot each other. Further, Monteith said, there was a key reason Braswell refused Brown's orders to get out of the vehicle with his hands raised: he was confined by a seat belt. While the video showed Brown punching and kicking Braswell, he didn't mention it in his initial reports. Likewise, Ryan didn't initially say he kicked Braswell with his knee 3 or 4 times so he could put him in handcuffs. Harris didn't report that he hit Braswell 3 times when Braswell was lying on the ground in handcuffs so he could make sure the cuffs were secure. The officers added those details in subsequent reports after they learned about the PBSO video, prosecutors Susan Osborne and Donald Tunnage said. Wasserman disputed that any of the 3 tried to cover up their misdeeds. They didn't falsify records with the intent to deceive anybody, he said after the verdict was announced. The jury agreed. Reached later, Boynton Beach City Commissioner Joe Casello said he was disappointed by the verdict. Obviously we can't tolerate, or won't tolerate, that type of behavior. It's unacceptable, he said. Mayor Stephen Grant said he hadn't been following the trial. But he praised Chief Jeffrey Katz for asking the FBI to investigate the officers after realizing their initial reports didn't jibe with the video. I'm looking forward to turning the page at the Boynton Beach Police Department with Chief Katz at the helm, Grant said. Katz was seen leaving the courthouse but didn't respond to later requests for comment. In a prepared statement that was emailed to reporters, Department spokeswoman Stephanie Slater said, in light of the fact that there are additional court proceedings underway pertaining to the same 2014 incident, our only comment is that the men and women of the Boynton Beach Police Department remain committed to providing legally and ethically sound policing services, and that we will accept nothing less from those entrusted with this responsibility. And, the saga isn't over. While the jury deliberated the 3 officers' fates, another jury was selected to consider charges against their supervisor, Sergeant Philip Ontico. On Monday, the same prosecutors are going to try to convince the new jury to convict him of falsifying reports and obstruction of justice, claiming he helped the officers cover up their misdeeds. Each of the charges carries a maximum 20-year prison sentence. Editor's note: this story has been updated to clarify that Ronald Ryan reported that he kicked Braswell with his knee 3 or 4 times, a technique police call a knee strike.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is if I got some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head, help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.